All right, your hip extension, PAILs and rails. So for the hip extension, I'm using a little pad. Highly recommend, just get something. You can use a cushion, whatever it is that you've got at home, just to make this more comfortable, because there is going to be some force on your knee. So we're going to get into, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get into position of hip extension. So importantly, what I want to make sure that we're doing, we're trying to get to hip extension here, but what'll naturally happen, I'll just lift up my shirt so you can actually see, what'll naturally happen is you push your spinal arch. At this point, we're not getting that spinal extension, so I want to keep that spine nice and straight, but really importantly, here, I want you to tuck those hips under, because hip extension is just where your femur is in relation to what your hips are doing. So if I do that with my hips, I can go forward. Whereas if I tuck my hips under, I'm now at my full extension. So really important, keep this position. So get into that section, position, tilt under, and then just drive forward as far as you can. I'm now in my fully flexed position. This hip tilting will make a very big difference. So I've got a stick here. We're gonna sit here for 2-minute stretch, and then we're gonna get into a PAILs contraction, then we're gonna get into the rails contraction. I'm using this stick not for balance, but to create more irradiation and tension. So if you remember, the more irradiation, the more tension I can create in my body, the more force I'll be able to generate through this tissue. So I'm holding this stretch. Once the 2 minutes is up, I'm gonna gradually ramp up. Let's say we're doing 100% intensity, it's gonna gradually ramp up over about 5 or 10 seconds to 100% effort. And I'm gonna be using everything on the front side, because remember, the PAILs is the progressive side, so this is the side that's getting bigger, and then the regressive side's on the back. So the PAILs contraction is going to be me trying to sort of drive and scoop my knee through the floor using all of the tissue here. Obviously I'm not moving. And then my regressive is going to be trying to get to more hip extension. So I'm literally trying to lift my knee off the floor and go backwards, not lifting my foot, trying to get more extension through that femur. Obviously that's not gonna happen. So here we go. We're gonna pretend 2 minutes is up. Brace your core. I'm just gonna hold this stick over here so it's out of the way. I like to squeeze this, drive it into the floor as hard as I can to create as much irradiation as possible. And then I'm going to now gradually build up 20%, 40%, 60, 80, 100%. So I'm feeling everything on this front side, all that hip flexor stuff driving through. Gonna do that for 15 seconds. Once that 15 seconds is up, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Going to now transfer to the back to try to get my femur to move back. I'm also going to use this tissue here to actually try to pull myself forward, but really focusing, not so much hamstring, but more glutes and everything to really get to pull that femur back. And then relax. Once you do this, make sure that that hip stays tilted underneath. One, you change from forward to back. And now in this rest period, once I've recovered, you're gonna give yourself 30, 45, 50, 60 seconds, however long it takes for you to feel recovered enough to be able to do the same intensity for the same amount of time for your second and or third rep. But once I'm relaxed, I'm just gonna try to push a little bit further. So every time in between each set or each rep, I'm gonna try and get a little bit more movement. And then you go again, second, third rep, depending on what your program tells you to do. So there is your hip extension, PAILs and rails. Enjoy.